Hello, hi, how are you? Welcome to International Student Stories. I am your host, Simon Hamlin. Today, we're taking a bit of a different route with the podcast. We talk with someone who isn't an international student himself, but he helps international students like you fulfill their dreams. Anish Merchant started a GMAT test preparation company called Merchant GMAT and Admissions from his adopted home country of Buenos Aires, Argentina. GMAT stands for Graduate Management Admission Test. Wikipedia describes it as a, quote, computer adaptive test intended to assess certain analytical, writing, quantitative, verbal, and reading skills in written English for use in admission to a graduate management program, such as a Master of Business Administration program, unquote. Anish was working in finance, and he was planning to get his MBA when his life took a detour. He now empowers students not just in taking the GMAT test, but in guiding their life decisions. Anish offers a unique outlook on MBA degrees and the GMAT process that doesn't just apply to business, school, and the test. It applies to life as a whole. Even if you've never taken the GMAT or never plan to, this episode offers great life advice. Before we start, please help us share these inspiring stories with your friends and family. Take a minute to subscribe to and follow the International Student Stories podcast. You can also rate us, share the podcast with others, and write a review. Go ahead and pause this episode right now so you can take action. Thank you for your help. Here is Anish Merchant on International Student Stories. Anish, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and this is a cool experience. So thank you guys so much.
You bet. So let's start with your name. Your parents are from India. You grew up in Austin, Texas. I'm curious.
Houston. I apologize. It's Houston. Yeah.
Houston. Okay.
They'll kill me in Houston if you mention Austin.
All right. So no Austin. Houston it is.
Texas.
So
Sugarland, Texas. But believe it or not.
And you graduated from University of Houston. Your name, Anish. What is the meaning of your first name, Anish?
The name is derived from Sanskrit. So it means supreme being. It's one of the names of Vishnu, who is a prominent Hindu god. So, I always make a joke of there's a lot of responsibility for parents to give to a child, It's, wow, the supreme? Are you kidding me?
How are you living up to it?
Got some work to do. I got some work to do, definitely. It's helped me a lot, actually. Having a different name, especially in a foreign country, helps people remember your name a lot easier, actually. So thanks to my parents for that.
And when you mentioned foreign country, you're in Buenos Aires, Argentina right now. Tell us the story of how you ended up there and how you ended up staying there and making it your home.
Well, that's an interesting story. Actually, start off with a word I like to remind myself with. It's adventure. I was lacking adventure, if you will. Story goes like this. I was planning on getting an MBA. At the time, it was like 2008, 2009. I was preparing for this trip, and I was working in the finance industry. So that wasn't a great time. The next thing you do is you get your MBA. This is what you're supposed to do. It's the next step in the road. So I remembered my time as a backpacker going across Europe after college. And I loved that time. And I loved the person I was over there.
I did that too. I still remember coming back home, and I feel like the glow that I had literally was magnetic. So yeah. I'm with you on loving the person that you become from the backpacking.
Oh, I mean, the people you meet, and you become the best version of yourself, the most honest, honestly. And so I really wanted a taste of that. I knew that before going to a program or embarking on this journey and this kind of life that was kind of planned out already, if you will, for me, I wanted that taste of that again. So I had a friend who I met in Europe who told me to come to Buenos Aires, Argentina. She had lived here. She said it was Europe at the time was cheaper. I was like, okay, that sounds great. Now, I had no clue what Argentina, what the country was, or besides they were good at soccer or football, and they had great steaks. I was like, all right, it's a good idea to go down there. So I came down here and I had a whole South American trip planned. It was wonderful. I was going to go all over, starting with Buenos Aires and go to Peru, Chile, Brazil. The day I arrived, I actually met 5 of my best friends that day. So I had a really, really easy time. And I fell in love with the city. And I knew that if I wanted to change the arc of my life's path, that I didn't want to go back. And I knew that this was the place for me. And it changed everything for me. So, and I just stayed. My poor mom, I remember her calling me one time, asking me about, she was at the airport to pick me up, and I was still in Argentina. So,
What is it about Buenos Aires that resonates with you so much?
I think one of the beautiful things about traveling is finding the right place for you. So for me, it was love at first sight. It was the environment, the architecture. It's just a magical city that's really hard to describe. It just reminded me of what 1920s Paris would have been, that environment. I mean, my friends were artisans, musicians, entrepreneurs from all over the world. And the Argentines were so welcoming people. They welcomed me with open arms. The day I meet them, they invite me to their family's house for an asado or a barbecue. And this is the type of culture that resonates with me. And I fell in love with the people, fell in love with the city, and the city has given me so much. No matter where I go in the world now, I always miss Buenos Aires.
Buenos Aires is the gold standard for you now.
It is just, we call it Never Never Land. It is perfect. There's always the problems, and everywhere in the world. But this city, at least for me, is the love of my life.
You mentioned entrepreneurship. You are an entrepreneur. Maybe you would say accidentally, but tell us about your company, Merchant GMAT and Admissions.
Okay, so merchants start off by accident. I would say, like most companies start off with, and it was, I think, a year and a half after I'd been here. And let's just say I wasn't in the working type of mindset, but I'd use up all my savings and I didn't want to go back home. I didn't want to have to make that journey back home and tell myself I couldn't cut it. So it was really difficult here finding a job being a foreigner. I didn't have the proper paperwork, if you will. And people were teaching English. So a friend said, hey, you studied the GMAT. Why don't you try this? So it started with the Craigslist ad. And I got one client from there. And from there, it blossomed into what it is today, and helping over 1,000 people achieve their goals and whatnot. But what we really do is, the technical explanation is, we're basically a company that helps guide people through their MBA journey. So we prepare them for the GMAT, then we help them with the admissions consulting part. And that's what we technically do. What I believe we do, and the reason why we are here and our mission is, we provide life-changing value. What do I mean by this? We help them with the challenges that they're going to have to overcome. Studying for the GMAT or preparing for this change in your life of getting an MBA is difficult and tends to be quite lonely throughout this process. So preparing for the GMAT, you're going to face some huge challenges. There's always some life challenges. Now, we particularly work with Latin American and international students. So the life challenges you're going to face here, leaving home. What am I going to do in this new country? What are the obstacles that await me there? Do I even know what I'm doing, right? Am I good enough to do this? And those are just some of the challenges. Then you have the challenges of actually sitting down and having to study again. Because when you apply for an MBA, typically you're going to be away from school for anywhere from 2 to 5 years, even longer, before even making this switch to go get your MBA. So sitting down to even prepare for the GMAT, it's quite difficult, all right? Especially most of our students, that they work 10, 12 hours a day. And the GMAT is not your typical exam. It will definitely kick your ass, okay? I don't care what level you think you're on. It's going to find a way to knock you off the top. And so dealing with that, failure is a big, big issue as well that our students have to overcome. And that's our job, is to be their guide, helping them through this. There's obviously teaching you the tests and all that good stuff, but really being there for you. And then building a community, not just us, because it's one thing when your teachers tell you, one thing we as a company tell you this, but we've built a large network as well that helps. So you can contact these people who are just like you, who are in these schools, who are in these jobs after their MBAs, that you can listen to
because that's very important to know that, somebody else has done it as well, and they've gone through these challenges as well.
That's a theme that comes up a lot with our students of trying to find a network of people, trying to connect with people that are going to be able to help you, your social network. So I love that you mentioned that a part of your framework for helping students with their GMAT is creating a network for them to support each other and learn from each other. I find it ironic that you aborted your efforts to go the MBA route, but now you are helping students achieve their dreams of getting an MBA. How do you see the role of an MBA degree in a person's life?
It's a life changer. People who want to pursue their MBA typically want a different life. And they may not know it the same, but they're trying to basically, especially international students, we primarily help people go to US or European schools. So this is a big, big life decision, right? Why? They typically want to compete at the highest levels. Okay, now there's talent everywhere. And the talent here in Latin America for me, it's just outstanding. So when you have a person who wants to change, they typically want, like I said, play at the highest level, or they want a location change. Maybe they want to live in the States or Europe and want a different adventure. And that's why I keep bringing this word back to adventure, because that's what it is, And also meeting people like you. Being around talent from around the world who are at your level or want the same things you do, that's going to help you tremendously in your life and help you achieve the goals you want to be, right? Being around these type of people.
It sounds super exciting and also could be intimidating for students who look at it as this end-all be-all opportunity to change their lives. How do you advise students who get caught up in, oh no, I need to get the perfect score, or I'm not getting a high enough score to reach my goals? What advice or guidance do you give to those students?
Well, luckily, I've been through this journey for a while. I'm not going to lie. When I first started preparing for the GMAT, that was the goal. That's what I thought. The score means it all. It doesn't. At the end of the day, you're not going to remember your GMAT score. You're going to remember the preparation and the obstacles you're going to overcome to get there. And so when I tell students, when they say the MBA is the next step, they're not thinking long enough. The MBA is a vehicle to help you get what to me is the most important thing. It's the life you want, then the career. And that's how we should be thinking about it. Why are we doing what we do? Why do you have the job you have? Why are you pursuing this MBA, or why are you pursuing another opportunity? Because the end goal must be thought about. And so a lot of people, and this is not just for people pursuing MBAs, pursuing international education, anything, really anybody. How many times do we stop and think about what do we truly want in the end? Where do we want our life in this journey that is life to lead us to? So what I advise students is, let's worry about that first. And this actually idea came up from helping students with the GMAT process. You see, there's different types of students out there, okay? And what I found out is there's some students who needed a roadmap, if you will. Maybe it's going to take some students longer to achieve their target score. And that's different for everybody. So we start out with a year plan or a 6-month plan to an 8-week plan to a 4-week plan. And that's when I started thinking about the end goal. And then once I started having students who went to the MBA program, because I thought the same thing, I'm going to go to a top MBA or go to an MBA around the world and my life is set. That's not the case. The MBA life is not necessarily what you think it is. As soon as you get there, it's pretty much, for me, it's a 2-year job interview. You're going there, it's literally recruiting from day one. And I started seeing students who basically went there, didn't really have a plan on what they wanted to accomplish the MBA, and they got sucked into the whole recruiting world and ended up doing something they don't like to do, and now they're stuck in that field. And for me, I took that personally because I felt like at that time I was just teaching them for the GMAT. I didn't really understand the MBA world. And so that's when we came up with our admissions consulting program to really help our students guide them to the program. And it starts with the 5-year plan, which is what? What's your end goal? Let's think about your life. Let's put a picture. What does that look like? And having a guide or someone there helping you with this is extremely important, because whether it be a friend or in our case, a consultant, it's hard to look at what you want in life. Okay, it's hard to know what you want.
Especially at that age too. You don't have life experience. Maybe you haven't backpacked through Europe yet. Maybe you haven't lived in another country yet.
So one of the exercises we like to do is we start saying, what do you not want to do? And it's a good old GMAT trick they teach you in, especially the verbal section of eliminating the answer choices. One of the many things that GMAT will teach you in life. But this is a great exercise to do for yourself, is to start, if you don't know what you want to do, let's eliminate the stuff that you don't want to do. And what we're doing is we're narrowing down our options. So my advice would be like, start with the picture. If you want a white picket fence and a family, there you go. If you want, to live in Paris, if you want this house, this apartment, high life living in Manhattan, that's awesome. Whatever it is, think about that picture. Then work backwards from there. Then you think about your work that you're doing. Because guess what? Your work is part of your life. You're going to be spending so much of your life on your career. Let's probably pick the stuff that you like doing, that you're talented for, or you have interest and passion for. And notice that none of these things talk about money. That's never what you want to think about, right? Money is the result of getting, because what's the whole point of getting money? To get your happy life anyways. So then you start working backwards from there. You start with that idea, and then you break down the career paths that would fit your skills and your passion. Okay. Then you want to look into if you want to get your MBA. And by doing this process, you may decide that the MBA is not even for you, right? Which is another important thing to consider. And then you can find the right MBA for you. It's not the top MBA. I mean, most of these schools are recruited by the same company. Keep that in mind. It's finding the program that fits who you want to be and what skills you want to develop, the type of people you want to be around, because that's what really matters. The people you are going to encounter are going to be your lifelong friends. So hopefully they fit your personality, they fit the way you think, or they're the type of people you want to become. You look up to them. That's really important. And also the professors. The goal of going to MBA, if you know what you want to do already, you can really navigate this process much better and utilize the resources at these programs for your advantage and maximize your time there. That's the plan. That's why it's important to come up with these plans. And by doing this is, again, like I said, the reason why we created our admissions consultant program of helping people with the applications. And by focusing on this plan, the funny part is the results have been excellent because our students get into the schools of their choice, the ones that match them. And the end result is those schools start to offer our kids a lot of scholarships because they are the right fit, which is funny how that works, right? And it's not just the score and whatnot. No, I will say that the GMAT score is very important, not the number itself, but preparing for the GMAT is very important. I think it's helped my life personally. It's helped my students' lives, prepared them in so many different levels, right? And that's a whole different discussion we can talk about, but I love the GMAT and what it's all done for me.
I would imagine it's such a relief for students coming to you to hear all that you're saying, because I think a big probably misconception for a lot of the students is, oh my God, I have to get into a top 10 program or this is all for naught. And what you're really saying is, no, what really matters is, what are your end goals? What is this 5-year roadmap that we're laying out for you? And let's match a program that, who cares if it's top 10 or bottom 10, if it fits with what you are looking to do, if it's located in the area that you ultimately want to live in, or it's got the professors that you want, or it's got fellow students who are like-minded. That's really the key metrics to look at for their decision making. And to me, that's a huge relief and probably a huge burden taken off these students in the process.
It's a relief. And honestly, you should look at your life in that manner, right? And you're going to be sold a lot of things in life. You need this, you need that. This is the only way to do it. No, that's not the way you should be looking at it. Remember, this is your life, your path, right? Not somebody else telling you this is the way it should be done. Right? You need to do your analysis by yourself, right? And you got to see what fits you. And that's the way you're going to be successful. Pursuing a pathway where you'll have a better chance to succeed. And you'll have a better chance of being happy. Let's be real here. I'm going to keep bringing this back in the picture here, is that your job here on earth is to maximize your time in life and the joy you get from being alive. And we're human beings. That's incredible.
It sounds like the GMAT is a bit of a metaphor for life itself, right?
Oh, I 100% agree. And listen, I was not the biggest fan of the GMAT when I was studying it, but teaching it changed everything for me. And I started seeing, because you had to explain to different people how to solve these problems and make it applicable. So you got these verbal problems, these quant problems, and You have categories like data sufficiency, and people are like, what the hell is this? Why do I have to do this? How does this apply for MBA programs or whatnot? So I started with the consultants, actually. So I had a couple of consultants when I first started teaching. And they would always talk about the stuff they're in strategy consulting. They use these things called frameworks and, how to solve big companies' problems, And I started seeing the relevance into these GMAT problems very quickly because I had to explain to them how you can make this practical. Why are we learning data sufficiency? Why are we learning critical reasoning? How do you apply that? And then how do you make it in such a way that these students can understand? Well, once I started seeing the applications of a particular GMAT problem and how to apply it to their daily life, start with their careers first, right? It's more applicable then because I'm like, okay, if you at least use this methodology of solving a problem at your job, you're going to be better at your job, and you're actually going to learn this methodology, what's going to help you on the test. And so that's when we started seeing a lot of success, right? Because you started people using it. And then I started seeing the beauty of it. Then I started applying it to my life, right? Especially as an entrepreneur, that's very difficult to do. You're solving new problems all the time as an entrepreneur. I'm unfortunately no longer a GMAT teacher. I've had a master accounting, finance, sales, marketing. Every year it's something new I have to do. And the way I solve these problems is very similar to the way the GMAT taught me how to solve their problems, which is focus on the problem first. I'll give you guys a quick primer and what I think the GMAT, there's a bunch of things the GMAT teach you, but one of the greatest things is a couple of things. It starts off with this premise. So you're faced with a complicated problem. And this is one method of solution. I have a complicated problem. Okay, let's say, in this case, I'm trying to live abroad. So this is a complicated problem, and then you can start with two pathways here. One is, what do I know about this problem? Okay, and what is I don't know, right? So that's the first question you're going to ask yourself, right? Which pathway do you want to go? If you say, I don't know, right? If you start off with that, that's a negative way of thinking. That's going to lead to, I don't understand. I don't want to do this. Screw it. I'm not going to do it. It's not for me. So you can take, I don't care how crazy hard this problem is. If you start with what do I know? And it could be the smallest thing about this problem. I want to live abroad. Okay, but where do I want it? What do I know about living abroad? Okay, it's not my city. Okay, cool. I know that. What else do I know? I'd like to live in temperate climates. Okay, don't want to live in cold weather. I know that. That creates this positive momentum. And that's going to lead to eventual solution. And that's the similar way you see a crazy hard GMAT problem. You're like, what is this? It's the hieroglyphics, if you will. Like, why? What am I doing? Okay, what do you? Well, I know that means this. Okay, then what else? What else? What else? So that's one way of solving or getting to a solution. The other thing that you'll learn from studying GMAT, or really in life in general, is focus on the problem and find the root issue. Right? There's all much BS out there. So what is the root issue? What is that one thing, if I start here, it's going to change everything? It's going to fix all the problems.
The domino effect, right? Finding that one tipping point item that if that falls over, then all the other dominoes can start falling over with it.
Exactly. And spending your time, instead of like trying to knock over all the dominoes one-on-one, which we naturally think execution is the way to go. Here's a problem, let me execute. No, let me think about the problem, and it might be in breaking into smaller, easier, manageable parts, figure out what the root issue is, and it tends to be something pretty simple. And that's something that can help you in your personal life. We all want goals in our personal life, right? And so we can apply these same methodologies for our personal life. And I have. This is how I've been living the life I've wanted to live. It's pretty cool. I never thought, teaching the GMAT is going to give me this stuff, but it has. And you can see it really working for our students as well. Because if you ask me, they have to overcome so many challenges of studying for the GMAT. I mean, one of the biggest ones is the fear of failure.
That we all have.
Yeah, no one wants to suck at something. If you accomplish all these things in your life and now you're taking this test and you're getting beat down by it, I can understand why it can make you feel down. You might think of yourself as failure, but failure, I will tell you, is an excellent thing. As long as you do the analysis of understanding why. It's the greatest teacher you'll ever have. So I think the GMAT does a really good job of that, right? I mean, the authors of the GMAT, you start off hating them, right? Everybody does. I was like, how is this? Who? Why? How are they doing this to me? And then eventually, once you understand what they're doing and you understand what skills they're trying to teach you through these problems, they do a fantastic job of helping you understand that failure is good if you learn why. Because you start understanding what mistakes you make. There's two types of way we view the world. There's external issues and there's internal issues, right? There's external. Well, I didn't know enough theory about geometry or number theory or something like that. I didn't know idioms. Fine, I can learn that. Then there's internal mistakes, which we've developed a really good way of getting our students to write this, and it's very difficult for them. Oh, I rushed the problem. Oh, I made a calculation mistake. So you'll have a student saying, you know what, I need more help in algebra. But we made them document why they get everything, internally and externally. And then the data is showing us, actually, you should probably just read the last line of the question. And that's your root issue that solves that.
There's the domino. Well, the psychology behind this is so fascinating, and it's actually why we're going to have another episode with one of your colleagues at Merchant, Dr. Demetrios, to go into more detail on the psychology behind this. Clearly, you're passionate about this topic, not only helping students obtain the best score possible on GMAT, but really helping guide their life and this 5-year roadmap that you're creating and helping them delve deeper into what's going to make them happiest. So thanks so much for sharing all this with us. And it's been great talking with you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you so much. And it feels good just to be able to let this out because it's changed my life significantly. For your audience who are doing international education, just want to give my 2 cents on that real quick. It's changed my life completely. I start by reminding myself this, which was, if I was gonna, little Anish loved to read, okay? Loved to read books about heroes, adventurers, and people traveling. And I asked myself, is little Anish happy with the book about my life? And I would 100% say yes. And that's because of that decision to take this chance of going to a separate country, not knowing the language, didn't have any friends there, and making it there. And because of that, I have the confidence and the experience. I can live anywhere. I can make friends with people anywhere. I can survive anywhere, right? I can make a community for myself. And so having that arsenal for me has given me so much strength, and it's made me such a person who's very happy, feels like they accomplished a lot. So what I would say to your audience here is, it starts by buying a plane ticket. Buy the plane ticket, and then you'll figure out everything else. But buy the plane ticket, and trust me, you'll learn a lot, and the world will give you what you need when you take chances.
If you could be any superhero, what would it be?
Well, my favorite's Batman, but he's not a superhero. Let's be real. He's a detective. He can solve problems, so I love him. So this is a good trick one. Of course, Superman, man, he can fly everywhere. But is that
you don't even have to buy a plane ticket? You save money on a plane ticket if you're Superman.
You can fly anywhere.
That's right.
If you could speak any language.
That's a superpower.
Yeah. And that's one thing I would tell everybody, like, just learn languages. Learn the basics, learn the first 100 words, whatever. Just being able to understand that everybody's the same. Everybody pretty much has the same issues, same problems, just speak a different language will help a lot. And you'll see how people are kind around the world, and it'll change your idea of what the world really is, and compared to maybe what you get to see or read and about that stuff. So another good thing about traveling is you get to see the wonderful world that we all get to live in. So that's really awesome.
Anish, thank you again for joining us.
It's been absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you again for listening to International Student Stories. And thank you to our team for putting together this episode. Stories are meant to be shared, so please pass the story on to a friend or family member who needs to hear a good story. A few other quick notes. I invite you to check out the show notes if you want more details on some of the topics discussed in this episode. For all the latest podcast news, stop by our website, studyintheusaglobal.com/podcast. That's STUDY in the USA global.com/podcast. Subscribe to the International Student Stories podcast to be alerted on new episodes. And contact us if you know of a current or former international student whose story needs to be shared with the world. Goodbye for now, be well, and much love to each and every one of you.